So I will mute everybody to start with, yes. Okay, let me see. So if we can turn our attention to our experience, whichever way it appears, sensations within the body, with just the restfulness, resting, the breath. And invite ourselves to the silence. In other words, there's no need to understand or to figure it out or to make any commentary. It's okay not to know, to be not knowing. In a way, our true nature is doesn't care so much about interpretations or figuring things out. All is well in God's kingdom. Notice the peace, which is the silence, the stillness, the beauty within, the joy of being, and the utter simplicity of being. That it's not doing anything. It's no personal doership. The sound of the wind and the gentle movement of breath. The sensation of the back against the couch or the chair. Without there being any back or any chair. No yesterday, no tomorrow. It's a vast ocean of being. The peace of being. Nothing to defend or protect or no interest in holding on to any image. There may be mind impressions, thoughts, images. This appear and disappear in the vastness of awareness, in the emness of being, without any consequence. Holding on, resisting, pushing back. It's just an impression, an illusion, an impression of that there is somebody that requires defending or protecting, maintaining, safeguarding. The illusion of separation. While our experience is this deep, silent presence. Complete intimacy. The intimacy of oneness, which is love. Love is the other word to express this oneness, this intimacy, this wholeness, this totality. Objectless love, limitless, unbound. Upon our recognition of the illusion of the thought that speaks about tomorrow, then the power of tomorrow is deflated in our recognition. The illusion of yesterday, the illusion of being someone, being somebody. Being is free. It doesn't belong. It takes on all forms while remaining formless. It takes on the form as isness. This is, that is, while remaining nonness. This emptiness, this absence is presence. It's not an empty emptiness, a present, full. The wholeness of being, the ocean of being. When we don't recognize the illusion, we believe and we feel there is something at stake. Because we are lacking the clarity of our true nature. So there is worry and concern. To protect the images and impressions that are already dissolved and gone, but somehow we overlook their impermanence, and we imagine some imminent danger. At the root of our fear and the negative emotions, the worries, the concerns, is the illusion that this aware presence is mortal. That I, the infinite invisible, is born and subject to death. You have the capacity to recognize yourself. There comes a point where consciousness is there, inviting you, inviting itself beyond the illusion of mortality, into the recognition of eternity. The recognition of the true self, true nature, which is not an object, not a male or female or whatever. So that the root of the fear, the root of the sense of separation and the impression of lack and incompleteness is uprooted. You are not defined by that which you perceive. You are not defined by the world, body, mind events. All mind and world and body impressions find their reality in you, awareness, you consciousness. Not in your personal mind. Your personal mind appears to awareness. The body, the world, appears to awareness. Which is a reality of I, which is I, what I is. Not I, a particular mind. There is no particular mind. It's an impression. It's consciousness taking on the form of this hearing right now. Taking on the form of the sensation of your feet on the ground. without ever becoming anything. Like in your night dreams. You take on the form of a herd of pink flying elephants. Without ever becoming anything. All of your experience, what you refer to as the past, your life, is about this understanding, coming to this understanding. Okay, well, if you have any questions, anything that you would like to explore, please make sure you unmute your mic. And if you turn on your video, we can see each other. So, any questions?
I have a question.
Hello, Gisela.
Hi. I would like you to explore a little bit the moment from the non-manifest to the manifest, the moment of forgetting and become, or the process of identification. I don't know if I have the question clear, but it's like...
Yeah, I understand.
Mm-hmm. It would be lovely if you would talk a little bit of that forgetting of the truth and being lost in the illusion.
Yes. So the way it seems to be is that upon the birth of a body-mind, consciousness takes on the form of a sort of a diffuse set of experiences, perceptions, and sensations. Like the baby perceives a diffuse, non-distinct stream of perceptions and sensations.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no sense of personal self per se. All what is needed is provided. The mother is there, and other help is there too. And at some point, the separation starts. It is in bits and pieces. A baby cries, and it takes 2, 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes for mom or dad to come and take care of the baby. It's not immediate. There are experiences of missing, some crying and calling for the fulfillment.
The instant fulfillment.
Yes, the instant. What was instant fulfillment in the womb now there are little gaps. And so over time, as the body-mind is growing and being nourished, and these gaps in the instant fulfillment are more and more, especially if there's another baby that comes now. There is a division of the resources. The assets are limited. So that over time, then the sense of self, of separate self, that I am, there is something that can fulfill me, and there is something that needs fulfillment, and they're not immediate, they're separate. And so there is a progression in that sense of self, which we refer to as the development of the ego. There is a sense of me. How do if I don't have my mom, maybe I can have my dad. If I don't have my dad, well, maybe I can reach for what I want somewhere else. If it's food, I maybe can go to the refrigerator, or if it's some company, I can reach to my brother or sister or or my friends, etc. So there are other ways in which the fulfillment is provided for me. So there's the ego, the sense of self, the sense of being somebody. It starts at the moment of birth and develops into this capacity of functioning in the world in relationship with mom and dad and teachers and friends and employees and employers, etc. So there is the separate self, the sense of which is necessary for the functioning in the world, the healthy functioning in the world, more or less healthy. But the way it seems to be is that upon the birth, there is immediately the seed of separation. The seed of separation, and starts to sort of grow. And the seed of separation, the way it seems to be, is that within that seed, there is the God's message, meaning there is within the seed, the knowledge, within the seed of separation, the knowledge of wholeness. In other words, separation arises out of wholeness, or the impression of separation arises out of wholeness, out of our totality. And so within the sense of separation, there is the imprint of the wholeness, there is the imprint of the totality. And so in everything that we do in life, from the moment of birth to the moment of realization and establishment as the self, we are seeking the totality. We are seeking the wholeness. In everything we do, in wanting to feed the body, in wanting to spend time with friends, in wanting to have a safe home, in wanting to have a happy family, etc. We are seeking the totality. We are seeking, which is happiness. We are seeking happiness, causeless happiness. And so the direction is towards happiness. From the birth, the direction is towards happiness. It may even be before the birth, it may be even within the womb, within that process of the being the placenta and being fed within. And so the path is a path of looking for happiness, and we look for happiness in the places where we know, in food, shelter, clothing, friendship, safety, the places where we know, which we started with. We started with the need for somebody to feed us, somebody to keep us warm, somebody to make sure that we're okay, a bed that's nice and clean for us, etc. So that continues. And then at some point, not at some point, but throughout the process, it's okay, but it's not completely okay. It's sort of okay, but it's not 100% okay. There is a malaise. There is some sort of dissatisfaction. And so we start to explore the dissatisfaction. Sometimes we think the dissatisfaction is because of some trauma we had with our parents or with our teachers or whatever. We do therapy. But the dissatisfaction, the cause of the dissatisfaction is much deeper than that. It's not because of some trauma in your youth or your family. No, it's much more profound than that. And so sooner or later we come to the teaching. We hear the teaching. We come to to the message, that about consciousness, about reality, what is the reality of consciousness. And when we hear the message about the reality of consciousness and we sort of really hear it, it is what we refer to as the beginning of the path. In a way of speaking, it's the beginning of the path. So this is it seems this is the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
In general way of expressing it. The destination of the human experience is God, is the realization of the self, the realization of I, of consciousness, the universality of consciousness.
Maybe the missing piece for me is, or what like, I've heard saying that God, in order to see himself, has to forget himself in that first movement of identification. Is that
Well,
this?
yes, it seems that that's the way it goes, that we forget our true nature in that. That's one way of speaking. Of course, the understanding and the truth is beyond words. But as a way of speaking, we could say that, yes, we somehow, our true nature is veiled by the human experience. It is veiled by desire, so yes, there is one could say forgetfulness. It's a way of speaking, really. Mm-hmm. That what you truly are is not the body-mind experience. The body-mind experience is a manifestation, but somehow within the human condition, there is the need. There is a need, and then of course there is desire, but there is a need, a dependency upon, initially upon the mother, and a need from the world to provide for the body mind its survival, and somehow this seems to be the experience that consciousness is having, but in fact consciousness is not having any experience. So there is a confusion between the human experience and the experience of consciousness. Consciousness is not experiencing anything. Consciousness is. But the human experience, because it is so intense, it is calling. It is calling onto, the body needs to be warm, needs to be sheltered, needs to be fed. There's a constant requirements upon the body. So the human experience seems to predominate, let's say, or veil or overshadow, or as you say, forgetfulness of the peace of being. But that is the path. It is inevitable for the human experience to sort of journey through this path. We all journey through this path.
Where did the idea come from for this human experience?
Sorry, what?
Where does this idea come from for this human?
It arises from God. Obviously, everything that arises from consciousness. The reality of your experience, and that you realize that in fact your experience is always that which is real in your experience is consciousness. That which doesn't come and go, that which is unborn. So all manifestation arises, like your dreams. Where do your dreams arise from? All what happens in your dreams, the events in your dreams, they arise from you, the dreamer. So where does this human experience arise from? It arises from you, your consciousness. So it is consciousness that that creates this perception right now, and as it creates it, it's perceiving it. It's creating it and perceiving it simultaneously. It's not like it's seeing it, it's going to see it later. So it's creating it and experiencing it in this moment, and it's dissolving in this moment. Like the thought you had a minute ago is that you perceived arose out of you. You perceived it, now it's dissolved, and you're now creating and perceiving this perception right now. Not you, Gisela. The Gisela is being created as this particular experience right now. So there isn't like an actual Gisela outside of this experience right now. And the experience right now, which we can call Gisela, is an experience of consciousness. It is consciousness that is appearing as that. It's not that consciousness is having an experience. It's a way of speaking. It's a consciousness appearing, let's say, to itself, because that which perceives is not Gisela. Gisela is the body-mind, which is a perfect instrument. It's the instrument. But that which perceives is I. I perceive. I is consciousness. So in terms of your question, everything that seems to arise, I emphasize the word seem to arise, arises out of consciousness. Now, I'm emphasizing seem because in the human experience, we imagine that there is a reality, there is a physical reality, and that there is a mind reality. That's our human experience. And we overlook that in fact there isn't a physical reality, there isn't a mind reality. That we overlook that. There is the reality of consciousness. Yes, there is a world impression. For example, right now, you're perceiving the table, or you're perceiving an object. So there is a world, and there is a body. You're sensing, for example, your feet on the ground. There is a sensation, the body. So yes, there are thoughts. So yes, there are, in our experience, world, meaning perceptions. And there are thoughts, and there are sensations. There are impressions. Why am I saying they're impressions? Because, like when a light beam hits a photosensitive screen, that it leaves an impression. So we said the impression is the light beam, but a second later that impression is gone. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. It's an impression. It's gone. Like what thought you had a second ago is gone. The words that I spoke just a millisecond ago are gone. So yes, it is a fact in our experience that there are world impressions, bodily impressions, and mind impressions, thought impressions. But the reality of our experience, and the reality of the world and of the mind is consciousness. That which is not an impression. That which is absolute. And the reason why we say it's absolute is because irrespective of conditions, irrespective of whether the body is hungry, irrespective of whether there is a war or peace in the world, irrespective of whether you're dreaming of your mom or whether you're dreaming of New York City.
Or is it like respective of whatever the claiming of that impression is?
yes, irrespective of whatever the thought impression is claiming, awareness is always, let's say, present and is always the same. It's the same awareness that perceives a Rembrandt painting or that perceives a tree in the backyard. It's the same awareness. So it's awareness that is absolute, irrespective of what impression, thought, or perception is taking.
It's so incomprehensible, that manifestation of that, whatever impression, that's like mind-blowing.
Yes, it is. I mean, God is mind-blowing. It's really, it's way beyond the mind. Yes, the body, mind, and the world are magnificent, and they are magnificent, let's say, creations of consciousness, and this consciousness is creating second by second. It's second by second taking on the form of a memory, of an image, of a feeling, of perception, of. I'm talking about the human experience, and it's, of course, it's taken on infinite other forms beyond the human mind. I'm just talking about the human mind, the human experience. And it is a infinite creativity and infinite potential of God, of universal consciousness, that it creates this experience. And the beauty about this experience is that within it, there is a direction. It seems there is a direction from being a mumbo jumbo, a jumble of experiences, to being like the blooming of a recognition of consciousness, recognizing itself, which is the experience of God, the Satchitananda, the Ananda aspect of the Satchitananda, the bliss of the self. So there is a direction, like all the rivers, they're moving, but they're going to the ocean. There is a destination. As a metaphor, is the ocean. And as the ocean, meaning as universal consciousness, upon this recognition, this stabilization, then God's dream is a joyful dream, a dream of celebration, contemplation, and love and beauty. That seems to be what the human experience is about. It seems to be about awakening to your true nature. So it's important to understand that, because then once you understand that, then you know what it's about. And when you know what it's about, it's helpful, so you don't get distracted by pursuit of phenomenal experiences. To keep your love for truth and your understanding of truth, keep it alive, keep returning to it, keep it on the front burner. I mean, I know you are. I'm just speaking, in general. That seems to be the direction to once you have a glimpse of understanding, to cherish, to care, to take good care of this precious understanding.
Thank you, Magdi. Cherish the illusion of forgetting. Mm-hmm.
Within the forgetting, there is also the remembrance. Mm-hmm. There is a remembrance.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We are that. We are this consciousness, this awareness. And so by the very fact that, we are awareness, we are consciousness, that which we seek is right there. So the remembrance is already on board. We are this aware presence.
Like you said, the seed is there.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Within every experience that we have is the potential of comprehension of that which is absolute in your experience, which, irrespective of what it is, there is the absolute certainty of awareness available for you to realize that, yes, indeed, I am, I is. Freedom from the impression of time and space. Freedom from the impression of existing in time and space.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Hi, Magdi.
Hello, Amna.
So when you started answering Gazella's question and you talked about like how it happens, the like how the beginning of the separation starts, I told the story that if my parents, because in my experience my parents weren't emotionally available, and I tell the story that if they were, then well, my life would have been better and like it would be easier to access this. And I don't know if that's true or not. So I wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I believe it's true.
First, I'd like to mention that God doesn't make any mistakes. Thank you, Holger. So there are no mistakes. So the thought that, if my parents were more available, more loving, etc., that thought is one of the ways in which we are trying to get to God. But it's an erroneous way in that it doesn't get you there. To blame your parents, your society, circumstances, to blame God, to blame your teachers. It's one of the ways in which we believe that we will be happy. The problem is my brother, my mother, my father, my grandfather, my culture. And if this was absolute truth, if that thought was absolute truth, then it would deliver to you the absolute happiness. But of course it doesn't. But I may continue to blame my parents for, let's see, from 1989 to 1995.
How did you know the year I was born?
Oh, I don't know. I just, so at some point, it's like, I get it, you know, it's like that it's not absolute truth. So from the perspective of our search for happiness, we try various venues until we come upon the path. The venues we try are world, body, mind venues. We try thoughts, you know, like the thought, oh, it's my mom or dad, which is a thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a thought. Well, the problem is that my mom, my dad, or whatever. So we try that. We also try other things. We try, you know, various addictions to money, to food, to substances. We try that to find happiness. So we may eat some good ice cream, you know. But it doesn't provide the absolute peace and happiness that we are looking for. We may try power. We may try very healthy body. We may try relationships, you know, getting into relationships and getting the love. But everything that we try that is phenomenal, meaning via thoughts, via perceptions, via sensations, doesn't deliver the absolute happiness. So the sooner we realize that, the less time we are wasting in our life spinning in the wrong direction. The sooner you get it, the sooner you, the less time you spend spinning in the wrong direction. And so at some point we start to look into the direction of what is that is absolute, that is the reality. What absolute meaning does not, it's not a transient, it's not a temporary or impermanent event. If you look into everybody's life, you will find a mixture of events, some happy, some unhappy, whether it's with parents, whether it's with school, whether at work, whatever, you know, it's common to the human realm. In that realm, that's how it is. There isn't a perfect tree. You know, I know we have like the perfect Christmas tree in New York City. Where is it on? Anyways, they have that perfect tree, the perfect Christmas tree. Everybody looks so symmetrical. They spent 10 years looking for it. Actually, they have the tree for the year 2030 already. So that's the perfect tree, you know. But there isn't the perfection. Perfection is God. And so everything is perfection. Everything is perfection, including your relationship with your mom and your dad, whatever it was. There are no mistakes. Mistake right and wrong is that's creation of man's power, imaginary power, the power of the human mind. This is right, this is wrong. It trumps, it wants to overcome God's reality, God's power, because God's power is everything. There's no right and wrong in God's realm. Right and wrong is in the human realm, the carnal mind. The carnal mind imagines good and bad. Bad mother, a good father, but a bad mother, but they're both bad, they're both good.
You said what? You said the carnal mind?
Carnal, the charnel, how do you say in English? Carnal? The mind of matter. The mind, the carnal. Can somebody help me? What would be another word?
Carnal.
Huh?
Carnal, C-A-R-N-A-L.
Yes, carnal means the mind of matter. How about that?
Magdi, I wonder if you mean incarnate, the incarnate mind?
Yeah, yes, you could say incarnate mind. Yes, incarnate mind. Right.
Is that different from the physical mind, the brain?
The carnal mind, you could say the mind, the mind that is represented by the brain, in the brain activity. Yes, I wouldn't. Yeah, we're getting really down to.
Well,
yes, John.
The problem with the brain is that it is a physical manifestation that's affected by the physical world. You stick a pencil into it and it stops working.
Right.
You breathe the wrong stuff, you drink the wrong, eat the wrong foods, and it gets damaged and its function changes.
Yes.
Whereas something about the process of thinking is something like a transducer. Does that make sense to you? It's the way in which the body and spirit can communicate.
Can you repeat? Can you repeat that, John? You can repeat that last thing you said.
I get the impression, or the feeling, or the idea that the brain is a bridge between the spirit and the body.
The brain is just a physical. It's just a part of the system, part of the manifest, the manifest. Yeah. So the brain, the function of the brain, one could say, is to sort of harmonize, let's say, the realm of experience at the body level. It's perceptions, sensations, meditations. This somehow are the central process. The CPU is the brain. But I don't know so much about spirit. Did you use the word spirit? Because if you said the word spirit, I will need to ask you what you mean by that, because I'm not familiar with how you are using this word.
I guess I'm fairly vague on the meaning of the word spirit, except that it strikes me as being the abstraction of my existence from my physical being. What lives on, what connects me to the universal consciousness, perhaps, but the brain or the mind, the brain being the physical structure and the mind being the processes that provide me awareness and the ability to guide my experience in reality, in the earth.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's say, let's use this metaphor. There is a choreographer that choreographs a play. There is a script, that is written, and there are many players, and every player has a script. There's music, there is lighting, there is a schedule, schedule of training, a schedule for the performance, etc. So there is a choreographer. There are a bunch of players. There are many scripts that every performer is, and then at the local level, I have my script. I read it. Say, okay, Magdi now is going to read the following lines. You read your script. John right now is going to read the following lines, or dance the following dance, or take those following steps. And so you could say that there is a certain order. Sometimes it's a disorder. There is a certain order or a choreography. There is one choreographer. That's the key thing. There's one choreographer, because you see, we don't choose our thoughts. Okay, so the thought that says I'm choosing my thoughts, I have my personal will, is this thought is not a thought that I'm creating. It is a thought that appears to me. So in terms of a spirit, one could say that the spirit is the total play, how the whole play feels like. Like right now, there is this spirit of, one could say, spirit of satsang. Just maybe that's not how you use the word spirit, but one could say, you could use the spirit as there's a spirit of satsang, of communication, of friendship, of the spirit of the play. Okay, we're not having play of World War II. So there is a certain spirit to this play, which the key thing about all of this is that, okay, at the local level, there are individual brains. Your brain, my brain, everybody has a brain, and every brain functions more or less, has the same overall design, but the choreography, the script for every brain at every moment is different. Yes, and so the brain is just an instrument that is there to interpret the cues, to recognize the cues, to activate. It's sort of, it gets a cue that says it's Magdi's turn to get on the stage, and then the body-mind Magdi gets activated. It's sort of robotic-like, gets activated and gets on the stage and says, "Hello, I'm Magdi," etc. So the brain, as well as the script, as well as the lighting, as well as the stage, as well as all the body, the rest of the body, all of that is one system. It is one system that is connected to the body-mind system that we call John, that is connected to the body-mind system that we call George, because in fact, right now, John is hearing Magdi speaking. A minute ago, Magdi was hearing John speaking. And so there is interconnection, and this interconnection of minds is not because those two minds are sort of two separate entities that are connected, but this connection is the connection of the whole play. We are all in that playing that play of satsang right now. So there is consciousness. The choreographer is our connection. We are connected together via the choreographer, creating the play, creating the script, creating the lighting, creating the stage, etc. I hope I didn't go way off with with that metaphor, but in our experience, we don't experience a brain. we experience perception, we experience a sensation, we experience thoughts, images. And in our experience, that which we perceive there is a reality that perceives it. That's our experience. Not what I'm thinking there is reality. In fact, our experience is awareness right now, what we refer to as I, is perceiving, is hearing these words. Yes, the brain is functioning and the body is functioning. This is why we're speaking English. When I say we're speaking English, we all say yes, because the brain has that recognition. It can function in a way that says, yeah, that's English. Is part of the script of the brain. The brain is also scripted to recognize English, but it's not the brain who is perceiving this perception right now. Although in the phenomenal world, the brain, as well as the body temperature, as well as gravity, as well as the sun shining onto the planet Earth, all of these are operating, and billion other effects are operating in the realm of the human experience. But all that which is operating, our experience confirms that the reality of our experience is consciousness. The sun shining through the window, it's a perception. It's a perception that is confirmed by the reality of consciousness. Because without consciousness, what would be the reality of the sun shining? One could say that the sun could have its own separate reality. And one could say, well, the moon has its own separate reality, and its body has its own separate reality. And if we do go in that direction of separate realities, then we come to the question of what is it that knows that? What is it that knows that there are 3 realities, or 4 realities, or 2 realities? Whatever it is that knows that there are 2 realities or 5 realities, because once we adopt the position that there is a reality to the sun outside of the reality of this body, for example, or outside of the reality of this brain, once we make that statement, that means there is something that is perceiving that. There is something that is perceiving that and therefore saying that. Whatever it is that is perceiving these multiple realities must be the reality of the mega reality of all these sub-realities. So whichever way you peel the onion, you're going to arrive to there's one reality, one choreographer, in the metaphor that I was using earlier, one choreographer. And yes, that choreographer conceives and creates and perceives infinite. It's infinite potential, infinite minds, not just the human mind, but beyond the human minds. Infinite universes, not just the universes that the human knows of, beyond the human knowledge. So there is a tendency to give too much credit to the brain, which makes the liver so jealous, and the heart, the freaking heart goes, how about me? And the sunshine. The sunshine goes, oh, how about me? You know, how about me? Can this brain exist without the sunshine? Obviously not. Obviously not. So the brain has its function. And we applaud it. We love it. This is a great CPU. But you know what? If you give me a choice between the brain and all its functions and consciousness, say, okay, I'm going to take away consciousness, but I'm going to give you a great functioning brain. Or I'm going to take away the brain and give you consciousness. I'm going to go for consciousness. I'm going to say, you have your brain. And stay with consciousness. So it is about consciousness. It's not about the function of the brain. Obviously, the function of the brain, we all value it, we praise it. And we even do, in the old age, we do Sudoku. Sudoku is these exercises to keep the brain from atrophying. There is a tendency when we get older to become more rigid. And just getting on a tangent here. And this rigidity is not because of the brain atrophying. This rigidity is because we know that the clock is ticking on this temporary experience, and we still haven't awakened to our true nature. Anyways, I'm just going on a forget about that. So John, I don't know whether I have totally gotten away from your comment, but hopefully not.
Magdi?
Yes, John.
You seem to refer to consciousness as a personal artifact.
I'm sorry, I seem to refer to consciousness as a personal artifact. That's what you said?
Yes, you, at least that's the way I heard it, as you described the function of the brain just being thoughts and not as part of a choreograph. Whereas my past understanding of your interpretation of consciousness is the universal, maybe the choreographer. I'm not sure I see the connection there.
So
my distinction has been the difference between consciousness and awareness. Awareness, is what I call that mental process of recognition, understanding, interpretation.
Yes. Yeah, you see, I use a
effort and motive to interact with the world.
Yes. I use a different word, John. Maybe that's part of the confusion. I use the word awareness and consciousness synonymously. I use the word mind in a broader sense to refer to the entire process of perception, sensations, mentations, sensations, distinctions, preferences, and so I don't use the word awareness in the same way that you use it. It's just a choice of language, because in many languages they only have one word for awareness and consciousness. I think in Spanish consciencia, and in French la conscience, there isn't the word awareness as a separate word. But that's just language. Do you see what I'm pointing to here?
I suppose I think of my use of awareness has been that part of the mind that addresses itself, that recognizes itself.
The mind doesn't recognize itself. Give me an example of the mind recognizing itself.
I know I can talk about what I recognize inside my brain that has nothing to do with sensations outside my body. It has to do with my recognition that...
Give me an example of the mind recognizing itself, an example.
It is the very process of saying, I am me.
Okay, so the I in your sentence, I am me, the I is not a mind. I is consciousness. So it's not the mind recognizing itself.
I don't think I can see my, for lack of another word, awareness of the universal consciousness, the God, whatever it is that provides the substrate for reality.
When you say I, what you refer to? Right now, when you say I
guess my I is the collection of memories and ideas and concepts of myself.
No, John, sorry to interrupt you. When you say I right now, you say I, are you referring to a bundle of images, experiences, and memories? Is that what you said?
No, that would just be the awareness that is part of me. Again, I use the word awareness because I don't have another word to refer to my sense of identity, of faculty, of interpretation of my surroundings and my life and the lives of those around me.
Yes, but what is the I in your experience?
I think, I have said.
I think is a thought. Okay, Gisela, nice to see you. Are you with me, John, that I think is a thought that in order to say I think, you perceive the thought that says I think, and I think is a thought. The question is, what is the I in the sentence I think? What is the I that thinks? How about that? What is the I that thinks?
Well, thinking is just a tool.
No. The question is not about thinking. It's about I.
Well, I'm trying to dissect the sentence the way you seem to be doing.
Yeah.
I have only a vague understanding of it's like living in a crowded house. You're inside the house and you receive and send mail, TV, computer messages, whatever, that when you're driving a car, you're inside the car, you're driving it where you want to, you're communicating through the windows or through the radio or whatever. There's a kernel of existence inside each of us that participates in...
Sorry to interrupt you. The body drives the car. It's trained, a trained body. How about that? Trained body mind drives the car.
This is an analogy. I'm trying to draw the analogy.
You're saying there is a kernel of existence with that inside of the I that's driving, inside of the body that's driving the car.
Yes.
Okay, so right now, there is a kernel of existence in that which is speaking these words or hearing these words.
Yes, as
Okay.
well as sitting on the chair and
Yes. This kernel of existence that is within you, how do you perceive it?
I think I perceive it somewhat like looking in a mirror.
Okay.
You don't normally see yourself when you're walking around being you.
Okay. Okay. So you perceive it as you're perceiving in the mirror, and what is it? And this kernel of existence, is that's within you? Is that you?
It is a part of me, much like the heart is part of my body.
Okay. And so what are the other parts of you? The other parts of you are the body?
Well, the corporeal parts are my body, by
Okay.
definition.
Okay. And that kernel of existence that's within you, what is it that perceives it?
That's why I use the analogy of the mirror, but it's an imperfect analogy. That part of me that recognizes something other than the physical body has the ability to construct a model of sorts that I.
Hello, John. Hello, John. I think we lost audio.
Can you hear me now?
Now I hear you. Yes. So you're saying that the kernel of yourself, has within itself a capacity of recognizing itself, sort of mirror-like.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds good, John, and that resonates. The only thing I want to invite is that this kernel of at the core of your being, that is also, let's say, self-knowing, is not part of what you are. It is what you are.
I can imagine my participation in the universe as having layers like an onion. There's my economic environment, my social environment, my political environment going on around. Then I have my physical environment, wherever I happen to be. And right now it happens to be my house, my home, which is an envelope around my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I continue to peel down, and inside my body is my brain, which acts as the vault of consciousness, again, awareness, I should say, and thought, and etc.
Yes, I recognize all that, but that kernel of I forgot what the word used, but that kernel of awareness, or that also is a reflective. It's sort of it's mirror-like. It's sort of, it perceives itself. Because when I ask you, well, what is it that perceives it? You refer to the mirror-like quality of that kernel of awareness. That kernel of awareness is always there. But the envelopes, the onion layers that you mentioned, your house, the work, your thoughts, your the functioning of your body, functioning of your brain, all of that is constantly changing moment by moment by moment by moment. Of course, it's not, oftentimes it's not visible, for example, that your house is changing because we don't have an electronic microscope, or we don't have the instrument. The physical body doesn't have, or the brain is not an instrument that can perceive that in fact the house is constantly interacting with its environment. But irrespective of that, the point that I want to share is that all these layers, or onion layers that you sort of alluded to, are in flux, in flow, in changing and moving, while that kernel of awareness that is self-reflective is not.
I think I've mentioned before that I find that others have mentioned their meditations involve sort of like chasing a child around. The mind during meditation wanders and you draw it back, and it wanders and you draw it back. The quiet between those meanderings seems to be my most powerful sense of awareness of the kernel within.
Yes.
And that varies continuously. Right now it's changing as the different words as I speak them change my own awareness of myself. But they are not.
It changes your awareness of your experience, but the awareness doesn't change. Meaning the period on your meditation where there are between thoughts, let's say, that is your experience of awareness. When a thought comes in, it seems as if awareness is displaced by the thought. But in fact, awareness is still there, but now it's awareness of a thought. And then the next thought may be, I should get rid of this thought. So now there is, that same awareness is still there, with the next thought coming through, saying I should get rid of that thought. The point that I want to invite is that although, whether in meditation or now or any time in your experience, the experience is changing for whatever reason. That kernel of awareness that you use the word kernel, that space of awareness that you described of in your meditation, is not displaced. One could say that the experiences are displaced, displaced. The experiences are the thought, and then next thought, and then the thought, I shouldn't have this thought, and then no thought. Then when there is no thought, the awareness is, all there is awareness, and go, wow, that feels good. Like in meditation, wow, that was great. I had a good meditation. But in fact, our experience is that kernel, the kernel of awareness that you spoke about, that kernel of awareness, with all sorts of colorings arising, or events, or on layers of the onion arising. The main issue we're having is that whenever these arise, whenever these experiences arise, for some reason, it disturbs us. It seems to disturb the awareness. It seems to disturb that period of sitting in your meditation, that period that was so beautiful, seems to be disturbed by the thoughts that are coming. And so in so we take a look at what is the nature of this disturbance? Why is there this disturbance? What is this disturbance? What is it that's being disturbed, etc.? We take a look at, we know that awareness is peace and happiness. But what is this? How come we're experiencing unhappiness and confusion and negative emotions? And this is where we come to taking a closer look at our beliefs about what awareness is. We believe that awareness is an experience we are having. We overlook that awareness is not an experience we are having. We're having experiences of thoughts and hunger and feelings and emotions and perceptions. But we're not having an experience of awareness. We're not experiencing awareness. Awareness is our true nature. Awareness is what I is. That's an important understanding. It's an important initial understanding to come to the understanding that awareness is not something we're experiencing. Awareness is what I is, what I am, what I, not I, Magdi, or I, this bundle of thoughts and the body, not I, the functioning of the brain, not I, the functioning of the universe. I referring to whatever it is that is. There is isness rather than not. There is something rather than nothing. And there is a reality. I use the word reality because this something rather than nothing is absolute. It's beyond any doubt. There is something rather than nothing. So it's important to come to an understanding that awareness is what I am, what I is. And then there is an exploration of, then what is this experience of perception, sensation? What obviously I'm also experiencing hunger, I'm experiencing the body, I'm experiencing the world, I'm experiencing thoughts. What is the relationship between that which I'm experiencing and the I/awareness that experiences, that perceives, that is? So there is a contemplation of that. Obviously, it would be mad to deny perception or sensation or memory or hunger. We do not deny that. But we need to come to a comprehension, to comprehend what is the reality of our experience. And the dream world is a very good metaphor. For some reason, I like sometimes to say God created the metaphor for us, gave us the dream. We have the dream, the realm of the dream as part of our human experience. During the dream, we experience sensations, we experience perceptions, we experience thoughts. There is the dreamt world, or the dreamt mind, whatever word, language you want to use. That seems very, very, very real. It seems like there are many layers of the onion within the dream. But upon waking up in the morning, or whenever we wake up, we realize that the reality of all this dream world, all the experiences that we had, that were dreamt, doesn't belong to them, doesn't belong to what is dreamt. That the reality of what was dreamt is I. In this case, I, the dreamer. In the metaphor, I, the dreamer. Which invites us, it's sort of a hint, it's a freebie. It's our handicap. You give a handicap, you're playing golf or playing poker, give you a handicap. It's our handicap that we can use to comprehend our wakeful experience, our experience in the waking state right now. That the layers of the onion, that which we are experiencing, the sensations of sense of me, my memories, my travails, my preferences, my prejudices, etc., my body, that all these experiences, their reality doesn't belong to them. It belongs to I, consciousness. I, that whatever it is that perceives, that is. So that kernel that you were talking about earlier, that is self-reflective, that the sort of mirror, it has a potential of mirroring itself, meaning perceiving itself or knowing itself. That kernel is your reality, is the reality of your experience, because it's always there. There is no possibility for any experience without awareness. And it's true that we overlook awareness. At the mind level, awareness is an abstraction. Awareness is a concept. From the perspective of thought, awareness is some abstract thing. But from the perspective of our experience, outside of awareness, what would even be this conversation? What is it that's connecting us? It's not just sound bites. There is something that is connecting us, an understanding. There is understanding. Understanding isn't a brain event. The brain has some function pre-understanding and post-understanding. Post-understanding, it says, wow, I really got that. Pre-understanding is saying, oh, I didn't get it. Say some more, say some more, say some more. But understanding, the brain, the mind are absent. There is aha. Like when there is a joke, you're listening to this joke, and then when the punchline is delivered, there is a moment of understanding. There is no, all the data has been received, and there is understanding. Understanding is no mind, just pure awareness, pure consciousness. So just take just one step further. Not only consciousness is the reality of I, but it's also the reality of all thoughts, all perceptions, and all sensations. Meaning that, given that the reality is not dual, there are two realities. Once we comprehend that there is one reality, which is reality of consciousness or awareness, whatever word you want to use, once we comprehend that there is one reality, then everything, whatever we refer to as everything, is within that reality, is reality playing within itself the game of everything, including this, whatever we refer to as our experience, including our mind, including our feelings. It's not outside of that one reality. There is no outside to reality. As soon as you say outside reality, then we're referring to dual realities. Okay, well, food for thought. Thank you all. Okay, Trish, lovely to see you, and Holger, Richard,
Thank you, Magdi.
Amna,
Namaste, Magdi.
John, namaste, John, Eden, Kelly, Holly, hello, Holly, George, and John. Thank you all.
Thank you, Magdi.